The 88 was so much quicker than any of the rest of the cars. I mean, wound up, 16, 18 seconds ahead or something. I never seen so much Beatin and Bashin or, bent fender and people pushing on it. I mean, even at Martinsville or something like that, they don't touch and move around as much as they did up there. I mean,
they couldn't spin out, Richard, because they was against each other.
I don't know if we'll ever go back down there.
I
don't know what kind of deal they had.
You got a pretty good memory of there, dislocating your neck a little bit over the tunnel.
It still works.
It don't work very good over it.
All right, how'd Mexico go, man?
Well,
you didn't go.
I didn't go. And Richard, I was really looking forward to it. I was counting down to the minute when it would start, and then
it rained.
Yeah, but was I a little bit disappointed? Maybe, I don't know.
I think I liked the track.
It was a nice facility now.
I know, but as far as the track itself,
yeah,
it looked like to me like I liked it better than the one in Texas. I think because I think there was more places to pass.
Yeah,
and that made it interesting. You know what I mean?
But when they come into the Coliseum, if they took all them little corners out there and just let them come into the Coliseum and spread out, then get out into the but I'm just making conversation. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it was interesting, Richard, and the rain came, and but the interesting thing was, Richard, that 2-car stayed on slicks the whole daggone time.
Yeah.
How in the world did he do that?
Just the way the flags fell, you know what I mean? Because I guess he was leading the race there one time once they first, because everybody come in except him and another one. But then he went back to like 20th or something like that. And then when they made pit stops and stuff, he just kept popping. But then somehow or another he got caught there at last because he was back to 20th or something.
Yeah, he was. He wound up 18th.
Yeah.
But
no, I don't.
But when the track dried out, he was on slick tires again,
and he should have been able to make up something.
Well, he did. He made up good time.
But it started off in the 54, and the 88. They was class of the field.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? So they ran off and left everybody. But once everything all come around, the 54 got caught. The way the cautions was, okay.
The caution, the last
right there
caution.
At the last, the 88 stopped, okay, and the 54 stayed out, and then they had that caution, and that just ruined the 54.
Well, that changed the whole race.
That changed the whole race altogether.
Yeah.
But the big deal was when 54 got back there, he couldn't go anywhere.
No, he was dead in the water.
Yeah.
But it changed the race big time.
Really did.
Because it really helped the 42 car, Richard, because he evidently had stopped too.
Yeah, I think he had stopped before the caution.
But they didn't bring it up on television. Yeah. But then it showed up on the restart, and he had a real good run, pretty decent
because
finish.
He'd been running 30th all day long.
Yeah,
or
I
something
know,
like
spinning
that.
out.
Spun out. But the deal was that the 88 was so much quicker than any of the rest of the cars. I mean, wound up 16, 18 seconds ahead or something. I mean,
16. That's the biggest. That's the biggest margin we've had
in a long time.
Time. But I've seen it, Richard, and I might be stepping on my toes when I say this. He could have probably gotten any car in that 37 car field and picked it up some. Well, I'm not saying he could have won the race, but he probably could have picked that car up.
Look, that's where he came from.
I know.
He is a road racer, okay, and that's all he's ever done really until he come over here. And from that standpoint, then when it was raining or when it wasn't raining, I mean, from that standpoint, he had so much more experience than any other guys out there. And, but he done the job. But it was like Marcos, when he drove for us.
Yeah,
I mean, he was just head and shoulders above all the road racers.
Yep.
And So that's all they do down in Australia,
But
New Zealand, I guess. Is where
But of course, man, you're still watching the 42 and the 43. The 42 come out real good, I think.
Yeah.
And the 43 was running decent, and he got caught up way back in the pack on that restart.
The big deal that hurt him, he had a left front tire.
Yeah,
okay?
he overcome some of that.
He got,
He overcome some of that.
Well, I know, but he was way back, and
Yeah.
then he was back so far back that when some of them stopped, they still stayed in front of him.
Yeah, I know.
Because he had to run around the track slow, and but the only thing was when the tires really wore out, he just quit.
Well, he was dead in the water.
He
lost.
He lost 3 or 4 positions the last
10 laps.
Yeah, something like that.
And he was just probably was going to fall.
Overall, I tell you, I've never seen any more confusion than after a caution and stuff, they throw that green flag, and they'd come back down there, 4 or 5 abreast, trying to get through the corners. I mean,
they couldn't spit out, Richard, because they was against each other. And
I never seen so much beating and bashing, or bent fender and people pushing on it. I mean, even at Martinsville or something like that, they don't touch and move around as much as they did up there, and or down there, and it was interesting for 3 or 4 laps till everybody got lined up.
Yeah, Christopher Bell, the 88 just drove off and left.
Yeah,
what he done, he probably relaxed a little bit and got faster, because he didn't have no car. And you done that one time to me in Bridgehampton,
New York. There was no pressure on him, so he could run the racetrack exactly like he wanted to run. And
he ran qualifying laps.
Yeah. Now where the other guys back there, they were having to look behind them or look right in front of them, so they were busy racing. And that anytime you race with people, it slows you down.
And use your tires up.
Yeah, a lot. And I think that's what happened to a lot of them there at last. They run so hard trying to keep up, then but everybody fell off. I mean, they fell off 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds.
I didn't have no timing or nothing, but
overall, it would have been really interesting if the 88 hadn't have been there, because the 9 car was coming on pretty strong.
Yeah,
right
he was coming
but
strong.
I don't know, how he fared during the race and stuff, but I know he started further back, and he was picking them people off pretty much.
Pretty good, yeah. Maybe I had my expectations up too high. I still enjoyed the race, don't get me wrong, but I guess I still a little bit disappointed, and I still don't understand why they went over there.
No, I told him I watched the thing and been listening to all the problems that our crews had to get down there, all the expenses of airplane, moving all that equipment and stuff. And then I got to thinking about it. Look at all the millions and millions of dollars that it took for our crews and all the NASCAR people to get there. It would have probably been cheaper if they'd give everybody in the grandstand an airplane ticket and a ticket and brought them back to Texas. It would have probably been cheaper on NASCAR to have done, and all the crews to have done that.
But it would have been different. But if I'm not mistaken, they said first time NASCAR had run out of the United States since 1958, when you and your dad was it?
58, we went to Toronto. That's the first Cup race I ever run. That was the race in Toronto in 1958.
But was you too young then, or was it before or after Columbia when we went?
No, it was after Columbia.
Was it?
Yeah,
okay.
we'd run 1 or 2 convertible races.
Yeah.
And then it went on a Northern Tour deal, so we took 2 cars and we ran there, and then when we got through there, we come back and ran Buffalo Stadium or somewhere in Buffalo.
Yeah. But that's been a bunch of years since NASCAR has been out of the United States, and
that's my whole career right there, buddy.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But anyhow, from the standpoint of going and trying to elevate NASCAR, then they wanted to do something like this to say, okay, now we're an international company. But basically, that from that standpoint, I don't know if we'll ever go back down there.
I
You know what I mean?
I
I
don't
don't know
know
what
about
kind of
that.
deal they had.
I know I won't go back down there. I don't know about you, but I just hope I just hope all the crew members and everything got home safe, and I hope they kind of use it as an experience. You know what I mean, and something they can talk about
And I
for
tell
a
you
long
what,
time.
For the 99% of them, it was something different, and some of them probably don't want to go back through it again. But again, we're getting ready this week. We're at Pocono,
Yeah.
so everybody comes home, and they've got this particular road course behind them. And but in the next 4 or 5 races or 6 races, we got 2 or 3 road courses coming
Yeah.
up. So if somebody don't pick it up, that 88's will be tough everywhere we go.
Yeah, they need to cut one of his legs off. I'm being ugly.
Make him run on 3 wheels, okay?
Okay, to do something to him. But Pocono's somewhat of a road course, Richard. It's just you ain't got no right hand turns. It's
It's 3 different straightaways, 3 completely different corners. I always liked to run there just because it was a very challenging racetrack. You could get through one corner really good, and then you was terrible in another corner. So you tried to set up and be pretty good in all the corners, and that's what made it work.
Well, I always thought that the main corner was the third corner coming off. You need to come off there to carry speed down that long straightaway.
Stretch. Yeah.
But you got a pretty good memory of there, kind of dislocating your neck a little bit over the turn. I guess 79.
Somewhere along there, I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah,
it still works.
It don't work very good over it. But yeah, that was a tough time on us. And
the Mexican deal is over with, so we can get back to the United States and get back to NASCAR racing.
that's what we're looking forward to this time.
What kind of situation they in?
Something like maybe Maurice and me and the Allisons maybe, or something like that. I don't know. They've been bumping each other here the last 2 or 3 races, and I guess Stenhouse kind of got in the car with him after the race. I read about it. You're behind on it, but
I missed that deal.
they won't get over it for a while. You know what I mean?
I tell you, from Stenhouse deal, he, if you look back at his history and stuff, of all the people that he's run into all these years, caused all of them caution flags, then, I don't know where he's got anything to get on to anybody about.
Well, I ain't going to touch that one.
I don't know. I never thought about it. You know what I mean? Like I told you all before, that if it was a racetrack and they had a race there, I'd want to go and run.
I never thought of anything out of the United States. I always wanted us to run Milwaukee back in the 60s and early 70s when we had the torsion bars and Lee Springs in the rear. It was a flat mile track, wore out, and I believe our car would have been good
It ain't got
there.
nothing to do with going foreign. What are you talking about?
Shut
He's
up.
talking about going out of the country.
He asked me where we'd like to run. I'm telling you, I'd like to send him to Australia and let him stay over a year.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that.
I bet so.
The way they got this thing fixed, if you win and you're in, that can't be right. From the standpoint that you got somebody, like say, that's 30th in the points that's going to make the playoffs. Hey man, what happened to the guy that's 15th or 16th or 18th? Been running good, finished good everywhere, and you're making a championship situation by winning a road course, which is not really NASCAR to begin with. And so from that standpoint, I think they're going to have to jockey around and change some of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I had to go out to my daughter and son-in-law's house to watch it, and my son-in-law spoke up after a 33rd place car getting into the championship run and eliminating somebody else. That's kind of what it was, and maybe he'll stand up, and I don't know. It's just what the system is.